or at least most of it was not yet constructed in this area. One thing that we also have to take in mind that had there been Al-Wazani village here, the American ambassador would have reported on it, because the village would have been affected or would be part of the entire ordeal in this region. Fast forwarding, April 1967. This is an Israeli map. Israelis are also fairly good with their map making. They had, there is those who study colonialism tend to speak about colonial legacies, that there is a tendency of continuation with the colonizer and then the post-colonial dynamics. And I think Israelis inherited a good cartographic legacy from the British, and they followed it through. It's all in Hebrew, sorry. There are at least 3 people here that can read it, or maybe 4. This is the village of Ghajar. You can see it here. This is the boundary between Syria and Lebanon before the 1967 war. We are in April 1967. The entire village is inside Lebanon, and you can see very well that according to Israeli cartographers, there are 2 sections to the village. There is a southern section, there is a northern section. There is no Al-Wazani. Al-Wazani is not mentioned here, but there is Arab El-Weza, the Bedouin community that I have spoken about earlier. April 1967. Only 3 months later. Oops, sorry. July 1967. There is a whole energy of new cartography coming up in Israel after the June 1967 war, basically creating a new cartographic reality for Israel. And one of these places where new maps are being produced is in the Golan Heights. You see here something entirely different. Here is the new boundary. There is Al-Ghajar over here, just south of here. But all of a sudden there is a new village, Al-Wazani. And the line, the boundary line between Lebanon and Syria goes right through them, through goes through Al-Ghajar, and now a newly created village, basically in Israeli maps, called Al-Wazani. Here also, I don't have clear evidence why did it happen, but I know that in the summer of 1967, Israeli cartographers and Israeli military officials who worked on Ghajar, administrating Ghajar, sent letters to the chief of staff in Tel Aviv, the IDF chief of staff, the office of the chief of staff, and they said, something is wrong here with Ghajar because we administer the entire village. We control both sides of the village, but our maps show that the village is divided. The office of the chief of staff told them, do not do anything about that. That happened in the summer of 1967, and from that moment on, basically this reality, this cartographic reality became a fact. It was perpetuated in most maps that were produced of the region as of July 1967. It also tell you something about the power of cartography, in a sense that if there is one dominant cartographer, he or she or it would be able to dominate how a place is described in future maps. Because of the domination, I think, of Israeli cartography, because of the easiness of access, it's very easy to access Israeli maps. This reality, I think, was perpetuated and also eventually transferred to the UN maps of 74 and 78. One last thing that I would add as a point of reference about the village is that in 1981 the village receives Israeli citizenship. All the villagers basically en masse accepted the Israeli offer to receive Israeli citizenship, and from 1981 onwards they are citizens of Israel, just like me and my parents who are sitting here legally, at least, if not de facto. I fast forward to April 2000. Israel announces that it plans to unilaterally withdraw from South Lebanon, and the UN embarks on a mission of determining the Israeli line of withdrawal. And the Lebanese team strongly pushes to partition Ghajar based on the 1963 map and UNDOF and UNIFIL maps. These are the same maps that the Lebanese team rejected with regards of Sheba. But in the context of Ghajar, they were very persistent that Ghajar should be divided. And Miklos Pinter, the chief cartographer of the UN, pressured by time, decides simply to follow the UNDOF and UNIFIL maps and divides the village. The village was divided from 2000 until 2006, until the war between Israel and Hezbollah. And there was no physical barrier between the two sections. Its residents, nevertheless, lived in an impossible reality. On the one hand, they were citizens of Israel, completely tied to the services provided by the state. On the other hand, 2/3 of the village were now under Lebanese sovereignty. The area has also become a major security problem for Israel, as it was in fact the only open section in an otherwise tightly sealed Israeli-Lebanese boundary. For example, some of you know, in November 2005, Hezbollah tried to abduct Israeli soldiers on the Israeli side of Ghajar, a failed abduction attempt, and then in 2006 it was successful, as we all know. Success probably is something that is not an accurate word here in terms of what happened afterwards. In 2006, following the Israeli-Hezbollah war, Israel reoccupied the northern part of the village, and until now it is still there, controlling both sides of the village. UN Resolution 1701 that put an end to the fighting in 2006 also called on Israel to withdraw from the northern part of the village. But since then, the UN has called on Israel numerous times to withdraw and has also suggested that UNIFIL assume control of northern Ghajar. In this way, Lebanese sovereignty would be respected and Israeli security concerns would be addressed. Most recently, the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, Avigdor Lieberman, suggested building a separation barrier between the two parts of the village and evacuating the residents who live on the northern side. But so far, nothing has been done on this matter, and Ghajar has remained united until Israeli control. But nevertheless, Israel makes no official claims over the northern section of Ghajar, and it seems that it is only a question of time before it withdraws from this part of the village. I have 2 minutes to conclude. What are we to learn from this story? So basically, we have a classical case here of colonial legacy of the Middle East. I will not elaborate more about that, although I would like to. But this is no different than many other places throughout the world of colonial dynamics, and this is a classical post-colonial case that was perpetuated by the countries once they received independence. The Tri-Border Region, this region by and large, allows us to juxtapose Arab-Israeli and inter-Arab state dynamics, because these border disputes, Ghajar and the Sheba farms, you would not have heard about them if Israel did not occupy the Golan Heights in 1967. They would have remained within the context of Lebanese-Syrian border dynamics, and you wouldn't know a thing about them. There are very few people in this room that probably are aware of the fact that there are about 36 similar border anomalies between Syria and Lebanon. But we don't know anything about 34 of them, because they involve Syria and Lebanon, and Israel is not a partner. This would have been the same if Israel did not occupy this region. Israel has this touch. The UN, I have not said almost a word here about the history of UN involvement in this region, but there is a long history from 1949 until 2000 and beyond of UN involvement in this region. Since 2000, the UN has been particularly proactive in trying to, if not resolve, then at least facilitate cooperation between parties. And it looks like the only feasible sort of solution, or at least temporary solution, to resolve this entanglement is indeed to provide the village, at least its northern section, under UN administrative control, and in this way to alleviate at least the tension that evolves around this village. It has not been pursued yet, but it has definitely been offered by the UN several times, and this could